That Great Business Show, Ireland's best business podcast.
ThatGreatBusinessShow.com is brought to you by De Facto Shaving Oil, the best anyone can get. Made in Ireland, sold worldwide.
Welcome to episode 111 of That Great Business Show, Ireland's best business podcast, posting on the 28th of October 2022. Fáilte I am Connelly O'Moran. It's becoming a bit of a thing with me. I see that today is truly Cranky Co-worker Day, and I kid you not. But today is also National Mentoring Day, and we salute all of you who give of your time and expertise to mentor others in business. Thank you. So long as you're not a cranky mentor, of course. Stay tuned to learn about Finfluencers, yes with an F, fancy offices, cheap health insurance, and efficient milk deliveries. Where else would you get it? Nowhere else but on That Great Business Show. And who brings you all of these great business insights? De Facto Shaving Oil does. Here's your top tip. If you need a load of small gifts for that certain time of year, we won't mention it yet, then why not buy De Facto Shaving Oil? For men and women, it's the best anyone can get. And unlike those oversized slippers or heated neck warmers, people actually will use De Facto because it is the world's best shaving oil. Buy it on defactoshave.com.
De Facto Shaving Oil, smooth as.
And as always, do not like us, but do share us. Press the share button on the LinkedIn page so the world will know you listen to quality podcasts. It's good for us too, of course. You can also send the link on WhatsApp to your buddies in business. And if you're interested in law, do subscribe to the newest podcast in our stable. That's The Fifth Court. All the latest from the law courts, including lots that could impact on your business. This week they discuss valuing private company shares during a divorce. Now, when many of you hear the word influencer, you no doubt raise eyes to heaven and gently exhale a profanity or two. Life's just too short. But maybe you're wrong. Maybe you should have a second look at getting your business noticed using an influencer, or if you're in financial services, they call them a finfluencer. Yuck. I think that's the advice my first guest is going to give. She is Alyssa Stevens. She is Director of Public Relations and Social Media at the Boston-headquartered Connelly Partners. We heard Alyssa was on a client visit to Ireland, and we used our influence, get it, to have her join Team GBS and share her worldly insights on your favourite business podcast. Alyssa Stevens, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you for having me.
Your first time in Ireland.
It is, and it's beautiful.
Well, it's a bit wet, but anyway, we'll move on from that. You know an awful lot about influencers.
I do. Influencer marketing is a very interesting space to be in right now.
Except if you were using Kanye West, or should I say Ye, as your influencer, because Ye is no longer hot property. And that, in my head, is what happens when you back the wrong influencer.
Precisely, and that's what we try to do at Connelly Partners, is make sure that our clients don't get into a situation or a crisis situation where they're working with an influencer that unfortunately does not represent their brand values.
But how do you know beforehand? I mean, did you know 2 years ago that Kanye West stroke Ye was going to have a meltdown, or call it whatever you will?
Well, if you ask Taylor Swift, I think the writing could have been on the wall even several years before 2 years ago. But I would say that we try to do pretty extensive vetting on social media as well as off social media to make sure that partners we're recommending for our clients are not going to pull a Kanye West and really go off the rails.
Kanye West. I love the way you say that. Anyway, though, we always go for the juggler here, you know that. And because you have listened to the podcast, because the boss was on this podcast, I don't know, was it about a year ago, something like that, yeah? And you know that I'm going to ask you a basic question. How much, of course, how long is a piece of string? How much does an influencer cost? And can you actually measure the benefit of working with an influencer?
I can answer both of those questions for you.
Good.
So I won't be as shy as Steve about the numbers. For influencers, we see the range really kind of act as the wild, wild west. It depends on what the deliverables are, meaning if they're just posting a piece of content for you or they're creating more of a long-form video, or perhaps we're using their influence outside of social media in media coverage or in paid media or even on your own digital footprint. So ranging could be anything from just a free product, depending on the level of influencer, or...
Now, sorry, when you get free product and the level of influencer, that sounds like very basic, very, very early kind of non-influencer?
Well, it depends how you look at it. If you just give a product to someone, we typically see that happening with nano or micro influencers. So those are people that are a bit smaller in terms of how many followers they have on social media. They're trying to build that following, build up their content and their credibility, so they'd be more inclined to then accept that free product from us in exchange for social posts.
And what do you call small influencer in terms of followers?
Small influencer would be anyone from 1,000 followers up into maybe 20K followers. That would be more of our micro nano influencer.
Okay, I'm a micro or a nano.
Yes, but you still have influence.
Yeah, but I still only get a bottle of something. That's so much good to me. So what's the next step after the bottle of something, be it hair shampoo or something? She looks at me with a bald head. Yeah, okay. That's not going to work, is it?
Typically, we'll create a brief for our clients.
She didn't answer that.
So that way, if you are the best representation of the shampoo or the hair product, and, there's something to be said about all types of hair or lack thereof, we will have them then create content around that product.
So you create the content?
No, we actually have the influencers create the content. We create the brief that outlines what that content is going to come to life with.
And do you have a stable of, 100, 500 of these influencers? And you go along and you say, well, now Mary and Teresa or whatever, they would be ideal for that. And then you go and pitch it to them. How does that all work?
Yes, exactly. There's many different ways to do it. But at Connelly Partners, we've invested in a proprietary software that allows us to search a database of over 3 million influencers from not just the States, but also globally. And we can go in.
On it? Did you check?
I'm going to have to check afterwards. But you said you're not interested in free product.
Well, I was hoping it might be cash. I like bottles of cash rather than bottles of shampoo. However, there are 3 million influencers, but some of those guys must be just ridiculously small.
So there's actually more than 3 million. Our software allows us to search 3 million, but right now 50 million people worldwide are self-identifying as a content creator. And that number is just going to continue to grow.
That is different. Content creator is not an influencer.
Correct, but it also could be. So we see this paradigm emerging where there's an influencer and then there's a content creator. So a content creator could also be an influencer, but you're right. They could also just be a content creator and not necessarily have a social following that they're trying to promote. But typically when we work with our clients, with creators or influencers, we want them to have both that creative perspective and also the social following so that we're getting a little bit more bang for our buck.
So let us go up the ladder. What's next? What kind of money does the influencer get beyond a bottle of shampoo?
So typically, once they gain their social following, we do see monetary compensation coming in. So while they may be getting complimentary product, they're also getting incentivized to create posts for us. And that's because it really has become maybe not just a side hustle for these people, but their full-time career. They're making amazing content that then brands can repurpose on their social channels, their website. They can use it in their paid socials. So that life of the content extends well beyond. So they should put a price tag to their work.
And the price tag is?
The price tag could be anything from, $1,000 up into $300,000 and even north of that.
Hang on a second now. $300,000 we're going into the, I think, stratosphere. Where lies in Ireland, we have 250,000 SMEs, small, medium businesses. And by small, by American standards, are micro businesses. If a business wanted to use an influencer, they're not going to break much beyond €1,000, dollars, the same price nowadays, maybe a couple of €1,000 dollars. What are you buying for that? And what effect or what benefit can you see?
That's where I would recommend the micro-influencer tactic that we recommended earlier in the conversation. And that's because we're able to get a lot of pieces of content. They may have a smaller audience on social media, but they tend to have a very engaged audience. So these people feel like it's their next door neighbor or someone that they really would trust. And that's how we're able to bring that authentic content to life. And for not as much money as, say, one of those larger macro or mega influencers that have the higher price tag. And the benefit to the brand is that you're not only able to tap into who this audience is reaching, but also having that content return. And that's where we see the power of influencer extending well beyond social media and really for the life of the collaboration and beyond that because of the ROI that you're seeing.
Now, you do not have to name either client or influencer, but give me an idea of an actual project that you worked on and how effective it was.
So since we brought up finfluencers, and you really like saying that word.
It is actually very hard to say, a finfluencer.
Finfluencer. And that's someone that
I
specializes.
prefer to be a sinfluencer. Sorry, it's that day.
So on the finfluencer side, we are working with financial institutions, both in the States and we're having some here in Ireland as well, start to ask us questions about how they can get involved in the world of influencer marketing. TikTok as a channel is incredibly engaging. They have a very large user base that's very engaged. People are spending up to 95 minutes per day on that app. So it has an extremely captive audience.
Is that not kids?
It's all ages. It started as more of a Gen Z audience, but we're really, over COVID, saw that expand to everyone from your grandmother to your mother to the person on the street. And that age range has just broadened tremendously. And it's allowing us to tap into that engaged audience and, of course, create really fun content that's quick and easy to digest around financial topics specifically.
TikTok.
Finfluencers, #FinTalk.
So, tell me about a project on which you worked.
Yes.
Using TikTok. And put a price on it as well as how much all of this might have cost. And I'm asking you this blind. I have no idea what you're going to say.
So with financial related topics, because it definitely is still more up and coming in the TikTok world, and we want to make sure that our clients feel comfortable when they're doing any sort of investment, we always recommend starting out small. And that means not just with the influencers they're working with, but also the budget they're dedicating to it. So recently for a smaller local bank in the States, we invested $10,000 in terms of the amount of money that we were going to provide these finfluencers. We identified 4 finfluencers that we broke up that budget based on what they were charging us, and they created content around different topics related to the bank. How to save for retirement, general money saving tips, mortgages, and that was brought to life in their own content aesthetic. And what was really powerful about it is when we saw those assets being posted on social media, the way that people were responding to them was just absolutely tremendous. We saw a number of saves on it, meaning that people were saving the video to go back and reference in the future. We saw shares, so they might be sending it to their friend, their spouse, someone that they think would also find the content interesting. And we actually saw a number of actions taken on that bank's website, including people applying to have a mortgage with that bank. And that's all from just 4 TikTok creators and a budget of $10,000. And
so it's just to cut across, is that $2,500 each roughly? And the TikTok content that they made, 90 seconds, 10 seconds?
It ranges. We try to give a little bit of creative freedom to these TikTok creators because they know what's going to resonate best with their audience. So that could be that short. It could be even a little bit longer, or a little bit shorter from that. But we like to give that freedom to them because they know it's going to work. But when we saw that people actually apply for a mortgage and then find out from the bank that each one of their mortgages, if those go through, is giving them $6,000 back, that campaign paid for itself. Because with 4 people doing this content and then 3 people actually applying and taking that actionable step, we're seeing that return really be quite amazing for what they invested.
Did you want to say only 3 people applied?
3 people, but that was only from 4 different content creators.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I was hoping maybe to hear that you're going to tell me, 10,000 people applied, but no, 3.
To take an actionable step, yes, to apply for a mortgage.
So let us go into something less financial, maybe your local restaurant. If a local restaurant is clever and they make a TikTok video and post it, what kind of a reaction, or if you've done anything similar at all in the broader sense, what kind of reaction could you see?
We like to see the impressions first. So beyond any actionable steps, whether they're going to that website or they're actually going in to eat at the restaurant or whatever that conversion may be, we like to see first and foremost how many views are those videos getting. And what's amazing about TikTok is the way that its algorithm prioritizes content. So unlike Instagram, where you need to be following someone to see the content, on TikTok, it's curated by your personal interests.
I saw a description of the algorithm only just yesterday. It's kind of evil. It is so clever that the whole idea is it reads you better than you know yourself and feeds and feeds and feeds and feeds whatever you might be interested in.
It is a very interesting and scary place. I'd be curious to see what your For You page looks like in terms of the content that you get.
I don't, because I don't use it.
Well, you might be curious enough now to see what it provides you.
No, because I know if I go in there, that's the end. That'll be the end of the podcast because I'll spend 10 hours a day. What did you tell me? 95 minutes. Those 95 minutes are spent trying to find great guests like you for this podcast so you wouldn't appear. Think of that. I'm twisting it back again. Go back into TikTok and all for my local restaurant that might say, if I have the local chef who's a bit of a character, that would be a brilliant piece of business, a brilliant piece of TikTok, should I say, and might bring in business.
You should definitely use them on your TikTok channel then, because though they're spending that 95 minutes per day, the attention spans of consumers are dwindling. They want to be entertained immediately when they start watching something, or they're just going to flip and go to the next video. So if you have someone that can act as a personality for your brand, you should absolutely utilize them in whether it's a series or they're showing quick tips around how to cook a different meal, or maybe there's a really Instagrammable dish or cocktail. Those are all things that you should put on TikTok so it really brings your brand or your restaurant in this case to life.
And I love the idea of to show me how to cook a meal, but not in 90 seconds or whatever, because it doesn't matter what you say to me, the views are very short indeed, aren't they?
Very short. But sometimes what we see when the content is really concise is that people watch it over and over and over again because they want to get every piece of that meal so that they can then recreate it on themselves. So that tends to almost be a little bit of a secret sauce where...
Oh, get it? Secret sauce.
There you go.
And what are the don't do's? What would you say? Oh, listen, we have found out that this is a complete waste of money.
I would say don't think that whatever you're doing on any other social media will work on TikTok. It has to be content that's unique to that platform. And people see right through any sort of traditional advertising, traditional creative, if it's repurposed on there. So you need to work with creators because it's a creator-first platform, and hopefully work with an ad agency like Connelly Partners to help you come up with a strategy utilizing influencers to create that content for your brand.
You're very good. I think you've mentioned Connelly maybe 5, maybe 6 times so far. So you can do it again. I don't mind. But again, you mentioned the kind of cost. That doesn't include the fee that a Connelly Partners might charge you on top of that. Would that be correct?
Precisely. Yes, very correct. Now that fee I can't give you.
You can, of course.
I'm going to pull a Steve Connelly. I cannot disclose that, but I can tell you that it is well worth your while.
Is it a multiple of what my poor little Finn or Sin or any other influencers might get?
It's typically a percentage of that.
Oh, good. Okay.
So depending on the scope of work, how many creators we want to activate, if there's draft approval, if there's content approval, if there's influencer approval, that's all going to be inclusive in that price.
And then going up to the top of the tree, you have, did you say, 3 people who will get $300,000. What is expected of them for that? Is it back to the same stuff? I eat Mary Jo's biscuits because I love them. Do they not have to put a little disclaimer saying, I have been paid for this?
Yes, so it could be even north of $300,000. I just use that as a range. It's truly all over the place in terms of pricing, but you can't put a number on if you want to work with someone and the influence and return that they can give to your brand. So while they are still putting together the same sort of content as that poor micro-influencer that's getting the complimentary bottle of shampoo, they have a much larger audience and therefore have a much larger influence and can provide your brand with that exposure and that really authentic piece of content. And yes, they do have to disclose that it's an ad. We make sure that all of our influencer partners fully disclose that in a hashtag ad, hashtag partner, so that they're compliant with the FTC.
And can you see those hashtags? Because frequently, and I've noticed them not obviously on TikTok, since I don't look at TikTok, but elsewhere, that they are kind of blended into the background a bit.
Yes, that's sneaky, and we do not do that.
Of course you don't. So north of $300,000, what's the biggest that you might have ever heard of? And is it nuts?
Well, it depends. If we're talking just a quick transactional, we want you to post this photo or this TikTok video for us, it's going to be in more of that range. But if you have someone that's collaborating with you in a larger partnership, say over several months, over several pieces of content, you want to use their likeness and press opportunities and media shows, whatever it may be, obviously that price is going to increase. So it's all about that exchange of what are we asking them to do for us and what do we think the value of their influence is.
Did you see, by any chance, how much the severing of relationship between Mr. Kanye West and Adidas, just Adidas, cost Adidas?
I saw that he's no longer on the billionaire list.
$250 million it cost Adidas, or Adidas, whatever they like to call themselves. What an awful amount of money.
But they saw, because despite whatever things he may say, or how people feel about him, he does or did have a very loyal fan base, and they felt that that price was worth that influence that he had.
Yeah, but again, you're back into this thing. You cannot, in particular with creative people, you cannot corral them. You cannot be sure. It reminds me, and you will not be aware of all of this. This is real history now for you. We, the Irish soccer team, went to the World Cup, and a guy called Roy Keane, who was a superstar, went rogue, and he had endorsed products. And I often went by looking at them, saying, looking at the advertising, showing him, saying, I wonder, does the advertiser feel really rotten about this now because he has divided a nation? You can't rein in people. You can't say, oh no, I'm not going to pay you now because you've gone rogue or you've done something.
You're 100% right. And that is for sure the risk of working with humans instead of just an ad unit. But we find that the risk is certainly worth the reward, because in turn you get an actual person who has that influence and that loyal following endorsing your product. And that just speaks volumes compared to when you drive by a billboard or you pick up a magazine and you see an advertisement.
Pick up a magazine. When did you last do that?
Actually, you have more magazines here than we do in the United States right now,
Unfortunately, it is heading the same way as the US. Now, two final questions, if that's possible. TikTok. Like, at some stage, TikTok is going to be overtaken by something else. What are you seeing? What's the next big TikTok type thing?
Right now, TikTok is definitely the leader, but we are seeing the other platforms trying to compete. Instagram prioritizing their Reels, which is their short form video content, over static imagery right now. They're all trying to be the next TikTok or incorporate those features that have the audience that TikTok now has taken from them.
But that's in the future. So at the moment, it's just TikTok, you're saying?
I'm saying TikTok right now. There have been a few that have come up recently. I don't know if you read about Be Real.
Nope.
That's more of an in the moment, take a picture of what you're doing and send it out. No cheating. TikTok has now incorporated a feature where you can do the same thing.
Okay.
But I don't think Be Real has the same leverage that TikTok does in terms of the engaged user base and or the opportunities for advertisers. So I don't foresee that being something that we're going to see stick around. I think we're going to continue to watch TikTok grow, get more users, surpass the user base of Facebook and Instagram, and just to continue to suck up those minutes of our day with engaging content.
Yeah. Like, did we think Facebook would actually start declining? And yes, it is. So we'll see what happens there. Final question. I hope you read your email. Did you read your email?
I did read my email.
What am I going to ask you next?
You're going to ask me who I would hire.
Oh, thank God. Alyssa, you are one of the few people who actually reads an email. Alyssa Stevens, who would you hire in a heartbeat?
I don't think you'll know this person, but you should for sure look them up. Her name is Eva Chen, and she is the head of brand fashion partnerships at Instagram. She started in the editorial space. She was in the magazine world at the glossy consumer women's magazines for many years. I worked with her on behalf of my clients that do traditional public relations many moons ago. And then when Instagram came on the scene, she began posting just really sort of authentic pieces of content. She'd be commuting between meetings during the day, and she'd post this iconic photo of whatever handbag she had and a piece of fruit in the back of a New York City taxi. And then from there, she got the attention of Instagram and began working for them. And she's just risen up the ranks there. She's an author. She's a mom of several children. She's a wife and just a really awesome boss woman. And I would love to have her being part of my team because she understands the past history of the editorial space, but definitely has her finger on the pulse of Instagram, social media, and all things influencing.
And can you influence her to come on to That Great Business Show?
I bet she would come over here. She's most likely at different fashion events.
I would love
to have her. So if she comes to London or Paris.
Eva, if you're listening, you can have as much time as you would like on this podcast. We'd love to have you. That's a great suggestion. That is Alyssa Stevens. She is director at Connelly Partners. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thank you, and I'll send the shampoo your way.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of Team GBS.
Viscosity. When you shave, you want the highest viscosity because it helps the blade run smoother. De facto, the world's best shaving oil, has incredible viscosity. That's why De facto leaves your face, underarms, or legs nick-free. Higher viscosity makes blades last longer. De facto is the best for your skin and your pocket. DeFactoShave.com.
All that great business show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
We love a good grafter on That Great Business Show. And my next guest is not any old grafter. She is the grafter. That's because Emma Kennedy is founder of Grafter. It's what she calls Ireland's first work lifestyle brand. Emma says that Grafter bridges the gap between work and enjoyment, almost like this podcast, providing a state-of-the-art workplace experience that speaks to members' every need. I love this stuff. I think that's a fancy way of saying that Grafter is a provider of fancy office space. But let us find out. Emma Kennedy, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you so much for having me. What an introduction.
Well, we try to make it a bit different. Am I right? You are a provider of offices.
Yeah, so Grafter is an Irish-founded flexible workspace company. We started up in just last year, actually.
I've read your
Had to check
stuff.
that.
2021.
2021, we set up. So we started with our first location there on Leeson Street, which we now call Leeson House.
You've got nice names for all of these places as well. They're all houses or this, that and the other. Isn't that right?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's kind of what we want to say is a home away from home for our members. So we decided to call the properties that we bring to the market our houses. Essentially set up like a hotel and full concierge service. Our members are able to come and go from the building as and when that they would need to, and everything is set up for them. So organising couriers, taxis, catering, stocked kitchens, meeting spaces, breakout spaces too.
But they are offices.
They are indeed,
You
yeah,
can't sleep there.
absolutely. No, absolutely not. Well, I mean, people do work late, but I'd hope they wouldn't be sleeping in the office.
Is it 24 hours a day?
It is indeed, yeah, absolutely. We have a number of members who work on US time, for example. So they'd be coming in later on in the day and they'd be working late at night.
But you are not alone in this marketplace. Just off the top of my head, I know of WeWork, Iconic, what's the other one on the bridge there? The family-owned Glandor.
Oh, Glandor, yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole heap of these places.
Absolutely. No, there are. The market is definitely...
What is Emma doing to kick them out of her way?
Good question. For me, really what I wanted to do was bring something different to the market, really elevate the experience. And what I mean by that is we are quite particular in terms of the type of buildings that we bring to the market. So we're very selective. We do like to renovate old period style buildings, Georgian buildings, and bring them back to life. And we would spend quite an extensive amount of time refurbishing them. I also wanted to elevate the service level with that, which I'm sure you've probably seen because it sounds like you've done a good bit of research, is that we do partner with other businesses as well to bring options to our members. So you probably would have seen that last year I approached the Press Up Group, who now offer all of our members essentially preferential rates in their venues. They have about 65 venues across the board, across Ireland. They're big.
And growing, and they're now into the UK.
Yes. I'll be totally transparent. I have to keep my Google alerts on to see what's going on with them because they do have a lot. But we are looking further afield now and looking to partner with other companies too, just to ensure that our members, have those options. We've found it particularly, we meet with our members quite a lot and to see what's going on with them. You probably have heard yourself in terms of the recruitment process or company culture is very, very important. So we want to be able to give options where our members have somewhere to do presentations or somewhere to collaborate, hotel stays, etc. It's all there.
You keep calling them members.
They are members.
Because what is the system? What's your business model?
Well, our members are effectively our clients, but we We want them to feel at home. They are a part of us. We are an extension of their business. We want to support them through and through. That's why we call them our members.
Do they join? Is there a membership, or is it a plain old lease? Sign here, and if you're going out the door without paying, we'll follow you.
Oh gosh, it actually varies depending on what the individual or company need. So you could come in on a day pass, for example, and
how much for a day pass?
€30.
That's all right.
Yeah.
What does a day pass give you?
So it give you access into our shared workspace. So we would have different solutions depending on what the member actually needs. So of course, as you say, we do have what we call our corporate members, and those are either individuals or companies who rent private offices for us. They can rent that on a day, a month, a year. It's really, really dependent on them. And then from there, we do have our individuals who would book into that shared workspace. But simply, you can book into a meeting room as and when that you would need to. What we found, obviously the landscape has changed since COVID times. I think everybody can appreciate that. But what we found, what I found about a year ago, is that what companies were struggling with, particularly employers, was actually just bringing people back together. They don't necessarily want to go and take a long-term lease. Leases are a financial risk for a lot of SMEs. You know, you're talking about 20-year leases with a break at year 10 or 15. So we offer that flexibility that they can come and go as and when they need to.
But 30 quid for one day.
30 quid for one day.
And what's a week? Or do you do weeks or months, or what's the next?
It actually really depends on the client, and it depends on the size of the space that they're going into. So
30 quid gets me a desk.
Absolutely.
And internet access and use of the toilet.
Absolutely. Yeah. And access to that. When somebody comes into one of our buildings, just in terms of the experience, you know, straight through up to our concierge team, and they can book them into the meeting rooms. They can then avail of the desk space. They can go into our kitchen spaces that are fully stocked. So items
hang on. Fully stocked.
Yes.
I can't go in and for 30 quid feed myself.
Indeed. Yeah, of course. It's all there. Bread, cereals, jams.
I'm going to edit this out of this podcast because I'm keeping this little nugget to myself.
Yeah, but you know, we've gone even as far as, you know, beer and wine. It's all there. So, you know,
on the house.
If you want to celebrate with your client on a deal that you've done.
Lee, are you with me? Lee is the sound engineer. He and I are going to go down to a Grafter office. What did you call them again? They're not an office.
Our houses.
Our houses, yeah.
Come down to the house.
So, what is selling at the moment? What's kind of hot and what's not?
In terms of
you know, what were your client base? What are they using? What are they not using? Because I do my homework, I was reading that McKinsey saying that in their view, McKinsey, now they're putting a finger in the air as much as anybody else, they're saying 60 to 70% of office space probably will not be used in the future. I don't know whether that's true or false.
Well, no, I think that's a very interesting statistic. I think the way in which offices are being used has definitely changed. I find it kind of an interesting conversation because people are definitely going towards the hybrid working model. Absolutely. But it's really interesting when I'm talking to somebody, for example, somebody that I know about 6 months ago came to me and said, I'm going to go work for that company because they're remote first. I don't want to go back to the office. I think it was about 2 weeks ago he approached me and asked me for an office. And what
was his thinking? Because I have heard this myself. What was the thinking of that person that he wanted an office?
He simply just didn't want to go back into the office. But what I'm finding is...
No, that part I understand. But then he's looking for an office.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is that everybody's minds keep changing back and forth. And it's kind of flopping back and forth to and fro. I don't think anybody really has the answer. I think it's going to be challenging particularly for employers, simply because, you know, John wants to come into work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then he may change his mind and it could be Thursday, Friday. So the reality is that some companies are faced with having to occupy the exact same amount of square footage, but the flow of people will actually change.
But if it continues to be a smaller number of people occupying the space, eventually reality kicks in and they say, we're letting out that amount of space. We're not going to sit looking at empty spaces.
No, and I would agree with them. You know, you see everything that's in the newspaper in that front. But what that does for the flexible workspace industry, it opens up a huge opportunity for us.
Oh,
Yeah.
Now, that means two things for you. Is you have how many spaces, how many houses
We
at the
have
moment?
4 houses set up, so 3 in Dublin and 1 in London.
And what's the plan? And who or how are you going to fund that? Because I have to give you a little bit of a shout out here. Your spaces are actually quite lovely looking. If the photographs are to be believed, and why not, you do a lovely job.
No, thank you. I've been quite fortunate to date in terms of getting the buildings up and running. So,
Well, you're not out there now with the paint or Dulux or whatever.
Don't underestimate me. But no,
That takes time, effort, money.
Absolutely, 100% it does. And the reality is that you could spend a fortune renovating a property. I was quite fortunate in how it first started. And so my business partner, Paddy McKillen, and I got talking.
Who owns Press Up?
He does indeed. He actually, I think at this point in time, the last time I checked, is nearing about 100 brands under the McKillen Group, which is extremely impressive.
100 brands?
Brands, yes.
Really?
We'll have to do a fact check on everything because he moves so quickly, but there's a lot going on all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving along, your partner is Paddy McKillen.
Absolutely. And one of the companies, Oakmount, have done a stunning refurb on 41 Leeson Street, which is now known as Leeson House for us. The challenge that prevailed at that period of time was that, COVID was there. There weren't a lot of companies around who really wanted to sign up to that long-term lease. And that got me thinking, we opened the doors, I think, October 2021. And we had the building filled within an 8-week time frame.
Did that surprise you?
No, not really. It just showed that there is still a demand for people to take a smaller chunk of space on a flexible term. And that's what COVID really amplified. From a funding perspective, it was a great step for me because the building was right there and then we just needed to put a stamp on it. And then from there kind of snowballed. The opportunity then came. The landlord approached us about 10 Eli Place, which is now Eli House. But you're absolutely right. We have to be quite savvy in terms of our spend. We are still a young business, absolutely. So, for example, we went over to London. I viewed so many different properties in London to try and get in. Oh, I'd say we're close to 20, definitely. But the reality there is that, of course, I'd love to have a big bag of money beside me to do all these refurbs, but it's just simply not the case. So we found 23 Bedford Square, which is now our Bedford House. And that is our landlord, Bedford Estates. And they had actually spent the last 2 years refurbishing it. I'd never seen a building to that standard. So we were able to get in there, put furniture in. And then from that, they've already approached me about potentially taking on another building and they've offered to do the refurb for us. So it's those type of opportunities.
Does Bedford belong to the Press Up Group or
No. We've taken a lease on that building. It's our landlord there is Bedford Estates.
But therein lies the squeeze on your business. Long lease and short lease. And that is where the problems can arise. Or maybe that's where your opportunity for making money is, that you take a punt on the long lease. Isn't that right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We take the risk away from the members.
Yeah.
And
but
I can
puts
see,
it on you.
No, it does, absolutely. But if I look at all of my statistics and what's going on in the market, the flexible workspace market is booming. I was reading there during the week, was it JLL in the US were saying that 30% of the office space market will all be flex in the US by 2030. I think CBRE then, I think was in August, came out to say, I think it's about, is it 49 million square feet of office space in Dublin? And I think we only, flexible workspace account for 2.5% of that. So we have a long way to go, a lot of ground to make.
I think these guys keep reading their own research and just goes in a big circle. I'm not absolutely convinced by it. So what's the future for you now? What are you thinking?
Really good question. I'm actively reviewing the market all the time and looking at different properties. As they say, we have to be quite strategic in terms of what we bring to the
Dublin
market.
Or London, or why not Cork or Galway?
You know what? So definitely Dublin, definitely London. I went down to Cork during the summer and I did it.
So did I, but I wasn't in the city.
And nothing hit what we were looking for, but I'm definitely going to be going back. That's for sure. Absolutely. we'll be looking there. It'd be great to do something in Galway as well.
How many people can you handle at the moment? If you filled all of your properties, how many people at any one sitting or any one time period could you handle?
Above 300 at any one time.
And what's the aspiration? Double that? Quadruple that?
The world is my oyster. Let's ask me that question this time next year.
But that's the way the press up operates, isn't it? I mean, there are no boundaries. I've watched them from the earliest days and I just wondered, and they keep going and going.
No, I can't speak on behalf of Press Up because they are a separate business to us.
I know.
Absolutely.
No, but I mean, you're learning from a model. It's a business model.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would be great to be able to get up to the benchmark of being able to offer 1,000 desks. How and which should we get there? You know what I mean? We're always actively researching our business model in that sense.
Smaller desks.
Jamie.
Actually, you may laugh, but I did read that was that Newman in WeWork or somewhere. One of those guys actually did do that. He actually just made the desk space smaller.
Oh, for our members, I would like to keep the desks as they are.
I'll be blamed now when people are sitting on top of each other or whatever.
No, definitely not. We want to create an environment where our members are comfortable. For example, all of our desks that we have are all high-low, Bluetooth enabled. They track your calories, etc. So we're definitely going to be keeping those desks. We're definitely not going smaller. Anything
else unusual in the marketplace that you are seeing? People just do not want this or definitely want that. Even what you were talking about there earlier on about the times of day that people work. Is it still 9 to 5 or in the main?
What we have seen is that there's definitely more of a footfall between Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, which has been an interesting thing to see. But then for some unknown reason, we could be flooded with people on a Friday. And maybe that's people coming back together to collaborate, or maybe there's some sort of event that's on. One of the most interesting things that I saw recently, yesterday, I was reading that there's a company who've set up a couple of months ago where you can actually book into somebody else's house and work from there. I thought that was quite interesting. Like an Airbnb. An Airbnb set up, but you work in somebody else's home. I thought that was interesting.
Weird.
Now, I only briefly read about it, but I thought that was interesting. Maybe save on the commute, who knows?
Well, if you share that with me, I'll see if I can track it down. That sounds a really, really kind of bizarre, curious idea.
It'll be interesting now, floating around somebody's kitchen.
And final question on this area is, does anybody go into the office, in your offices, Saturday, Sunday?
They would do, yeah, absolutely. Depending on the nature of their business. Yeah, a handful of people. I wouldn't say a ferocious amount. Yeah. But we do need to have that flexibility for people to come and go, depending on what they're doing. You know?
Well, myself and Lee are going to go down there on a Saturday and we'll pay your 30 quid and raid your booze. Do you know the last question that we ask everybody?
Who would I hire in a heartbeat?
You're brilliant. This is the second interview today that somebody actually remembers. Who would you hire in a heartbeat?
So there's a girl that I actually think that you really need to meet. Her name is India Healy O'Connor. And
I have to say, at this good start, I love the name India.
India's a great name. Yeah. Her name is India Healy O'Connor, and she has set up a company called Xelda. And it's an instant payment. It's an instant payment system by using a QR code. You don't need anything. You don't need to download anything. You don't need to register anything. It's great tipping. So imagine going into a coffee shop and they have their little, saucer there asking for the tips, because we are moving towards more of a cashless society.
Unquestionably, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I met her. I sat down with her a couple of months ago and I was just so impressed by her. She is incredible. She's an unbelievable business person. She's really kind of a go-getter. She went out on her own and she's gone and been able to get her funding and she's going for it. But I was kind of laughing to myself after I met with her. I went into the coffee shop. I looked down. What did I see? I saw Xelda. I was in the hairdresser. I looked down. What did I see? Xelda. And then I was in Mass 2 weeks later. But of course, because everybody's moving cashless, I looked down.
Did you say Mass?
Yeah, I was up in church.
And there was a Xelda.
There was a Xelda.
Get away.
Yeah. So she's onto something. She knows what's going on. Now, I'd offer her a job. I don't think she'd take it, obviously, and rightly so. But I love that ambition and drive that she has. It's amazing.
I love those. India, yes, please.
Yep.
India, first of all, you're hired by Emma. But secondly, we'd love to have you on the podcast. Will you send her my way? Yeah?
I will, of course.
Okay.
No problem.
That is Emma Kennedy. She is the founder of Grafter. And do please come back into us when you've got another 300 or 600.
Yeah, I'll let you
or
know. I'll
whatever.
keep you posted.
Please do. Thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thinking of travel? If so, make sure to make De Facto, the world's best shaving oil, your choice of travel companion. A 25 millilitre bottle of De Facto means no hassle at airports, no bulky cans to carry, and the guarantee of the world's best shave. DeFactoShave.com.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of Team GBS.
All That Great Business Show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
That Great Business Show.
When you love business like we do, you love finding out all about other people's businesses, margins, tricks, hurdles, hassles. That's why when Gary Gallagher of Optahall told me he wanted to explain what makes collecting milk so special compared to delivering furniture from IKEA or fast food from Domino's, well, Team GBS needed to know more. Optahall software tracks all of the variables, many of them unique to dairy, that can affect farm-to-plant milk transport. Gary co-founded his company, now on an accelerator at Nova UCD, not with a friend or a business partner. His co-founder is actually a company called the Zoosh Group. Gary Gallagher joins me in studio. Gary, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Hello, Connell. Thanks for having me.
How exciting that you're out with your your pan louis and paw pear trying to work out about delivering milk.
Indeed. It's probably not the area that most people would think of when they think about in interesting mathematical areas, but actually it's collecting milk and bringing it from the farm to the factory is a very complex operation, much more complex than most people would realise.
Come on, there's a big lorry, goes down from Strathroy in Northern Ireland and goes down to Cork and back up again with a load of milk.
Well, if it's going that distance, it's going way too far, and we need to optimise those routes.
I think I looked at a map in Strathroy because I had them on a programme I was involved with many years ago, and that is a fantastic business, is Strathroy.
Absolutely. To be fair, all the dairy companies in Ireland are extremely impressive commercially. And what we're trying to do is help those companies reduce costs, because it is still a low margin business and making products from milk. And what we do is we help to optimize that transport from farm to factory. And there's more than one truck collecting this milk. So if you think of an average dairy processor in Ireland, they might have 2,000 or 3,000 farms that they have to collect milk from. 2,000 or 3,000. Now, it's not...
But not every day.
Well, it is sometimes every day or every second day.
I thought that milk was stored on the farm in huge big metal containers that are kept cold.
It is, but no longer than 48 hours, sometimes 72 in some countries, but 48 hours. So every second day, in some cases where they produce smaller amounts every third day, but at a maximum. So every day, every second day or every third day, these trucks are going out. You can't not collect the milk because the driver is sick or you couldn't get in the gate or anything like that. The golden rule in milk collection is that all milk must be collected and taken to the factory in time, because otherwise everyone loses a lot of money.
Everybody has a backstory as to why they decided to go into a particular business. You know, somebody got a hole in their shoe and decided to make a better sole for a shoe. How did Gary Gallagher decide on working out the maths of dairy delivery and collection delivery systems?
A bit of a long journey. I mean, first and foremost, I'm not a dairy farmer and I'm not from a dairy family, although I am from Longford, which is farming land. But I spent many years working in Dublin in the multinationals in technology and technology sales, and always wanted to start my own business. But as many people suffer from, never could come up with that light bulb idea. I keep expecting to wake up one morning and have this idea that will change the world. And I had many ideas, and then I go and do some research and find out somebody has done it, and then I'd get frustrated. So it never really happened. But come 2018, I mean, I'm doing quite well in a multinational. I'm in a middle management role, managing 14 people, but still not really that fulfilled from a career perspective. And I
love that, because within many of us, not all of us, but many of us, there's that little niggle, and that you really want to go off and do something on your own. Kind of creative.
Always at you, even though you're doing well. And in those companies, you can earn quite a lot of money, and that sort of stops the draw as well. But I got a chance to join an Irish company called the aforementioned Zoosh Group, who are a really innovative company. They're a software development company, but they provide software development services primarily to startups. And they don't only provide the services, they help them launch, commercialization, product market fit, how to get everything off the ground. So I was brought into this environment, which was almost like a startup factory. You know, I was selling software services to startups, and they also sell it to other established companies. But I was now open to all of this activity of founders coming through the door and asking for help to get off the ground. And that obviously sowed the seed and increased the appetite even more. And while all this happened, the guys in the Zoosh Group, they have an office in Budapest. They implemented a one-off solution for a dairy processor in Hungary. So bear with me, we're getting there. So they implemented a solution to optimize farm-to-plant milk transport. We all then decided to see if we could take this to other markets. We found out that there was a need for it, and then eventually last year we spun out Optahall and put it on its own 2 feet, and here we are today.
And that is you.
And that is me.
Is it just you, or are there many other Optahaulers? Hauliers, get it?
Oh, very good, very good. There's 2 of us full time at the moment, and then we have some subcontracted developers. But myself and my sales director, Colin Kelly, whom I originally hired back in one of those multinationals, and have now brought with me. So we're a small team, but we've made big strides in the last year, and we're looking to make even bigger strides.
They're going to kill me for my next question. Is there a business in it?
I think so. I mean, if you think about it, if you step back from it, which is, you know, apparently a startup CEO has to be in the weeds and then step back from it and look at them with the 2,000 mile high view. But the dairy industry is 750 billion industry.
You're talking worldwide?
Worldwide. 80% of the global population consume dairy products on a regular basis. And all of that would not be possible unless the milk was brought from the farm to the factory.
But you're talking about, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier. Going up and down the Bohereens of Ireland is one thing. But you go to the Great Plains of the USA where they may be collecting milk. That's a straight road for as long as the eye can see. You're not going to have any problems at all in anywhere like that.
No, that's not quite correct.
Oh, lovely. Correct me.
So when we started off, our focus was Ireland and the UK, but actually US companies started coming to us directly without any marketing efforts.
Really?
Through our website.
How did they find you?
Through our website, literally searching for milk collection software or milk collection optimization software.
But I don't want to be down on you. We don't do that on the Great Business Show. But no, Google or Waze or any of these places, I mean, do they not tell you the easiest way to get from X to Y?
They will tell one person the easiest place from X to Y. I would pay a lot of money for anyone who can use any of those programs to tell 100 trucks what's the best way to pick up from 10 farms each every day and go back to any one of 5 or 10 factories. So it's enterprise level route optimization is what we're doing. And we found that in Ireland and Europe, at least they've tried some generic software products, or at least they're using Excel. But a lot of the cases in the US, they're still using paper. Like this hugely costly part of the supply chain is managed on paper.
But paper and
no, absolutely. I mean, the first company that came to us are the biggest dairy processor, or dairy cooperative there. And we usually take some data to put it through our system and say, hey, you can save X or Y.
And what kind of saving would you or can you typically make?
Up to 30%. You could take 30%.
30% of what now?
You could take 30% of your transport costs, which is essentially taking 30% of miles off the road for you to travel. And then you get 30% reduction in vehicle GHG emissions. And you also get, this is not a sales pitch, but
tell me, sorry, go back one step, GSG emissions.
Apologies, GHG emissions, so greenhouse gas emissions.
All right, okay.
So these are all diesel trucks.
But 30%, that sounds like a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. I mean, milk transport is the single largest cost in dairy production, apart from the price you pay to the farmer for the milk.
Okay.
It's a huge cost.
All right. I'm getting interested now. You may be onto something.
So, thanks. So, again, if we just talk about the Ireland context, the average dairy processor here is spending 15, 20, 25 million per year just on getting that milk from farm to factory.
And you could take 30% off that bill?
We could take, so far we're getting between 5 and 20%. Our earliest customer is now getting towards 30%. So yeah, there's huge opportunities for savings.
You literally are just manipulating trips. Would that be it? Was that fair?
We are using computer software to make calculations that humans are just not able to do.
Okay.
So for those that are interested, or for you that's interested in the mathematics behind it,
which I am, yeah.
Very quickly, it's all route optimization is all based on what is the traveling salesman problem. And that was it's a core of mathematical research now to test advances in computers. But what it was is, how do you work out the quickest route for a salesman back in the day to visit 10 cities and come back to the same place? And that cannot be solved. No researcher in the world has absolutely found the most optimal result for that.
Really? You're not just going a circle or as close to a circle as you can?
No, because that's not necessarily the shortest path. If it's a big circle.
All right. Okay.
Absolutely. So what we're doing is that's, we're talking about one salesman. We're talking about hundreds of trucks. So we're using computers to make those calculations that a transport manager just cannot do.
Come here to me. I've just thought of somebody who probably has cracked this one. DPS. I think that they've done so much work on delivery software. Am I right? Because there's one of the things that I learned about them a long time ago is they don't take a right turn or a left turn. There's one of those things that
a left turn in the US. That's right. That's right. But
that is correct.
But that's correct. But our industry the milk industry is very different, and that's why there's a huge opportunity here in that collecting milk is hugely different to delivering parcels, and it's in the name, as it says, you're collecting, you're not delivering. So collecting milk from thousands of farms and bringing it to multiple destinations is different than taking parcels from one origin, which is one warehouse, and delivering it out to predetermined destinations. So there's a huge amount of factors that you just don't see, like milking times. You can't arrive during milking times, the weight of the truck, the capacities of the truck, the times that the factories can take them in. There's a huge amount of those factors that are also dynamic, because the milk from a farmer may end up in factory A one week and factory B the next, depending on the changing production requirements.
Oh, of course, and price, I presume, that
and price,
a halfpenny or a penny or whatever.
Absolutely. So it's dynamic, it's changing, and all of that means that these off the shelf, which are really good solutions for the use case that you mentioned, but the off the shelf solutions just can't bend enough to provide good results in milk.
Okay. You've almost got me in as an investor. But I know, because I read my notes, you have a problem. You can't get technical staff.
It's quite difficult. I mean, luckily we've had some good traction with customers, and we're now in a position where we want to grow the team. And finding software developers in Ireland is very difficult. Are
they all hoovered up by the Googles and the Facebooks?
They're all hoovered up by Google and Facebook. And interestingly, if you think of what Elon Musk is trying to do on Twitter, he's saying he's going to go in there and reduce the technical staff by 75%. So you do wonder, do these big companies need all these software developers, or should they release them back to us startups who need them?
There are thousands of fellas down in Balls Bridge who are saying, yes, oh God, would they need us very badly?
Absolutely.
Oh God.
They need us at $200K a year. But absolutely, it's a challenge for all startups.
So what's your answer?
To finding them?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have one. We are looking abroad and looking at.
Isn't there a problem as well?
Markets.
Is if you cut these guys in for a bit of equity, is that it's just a mess in this country at the moment. It doesn't pay for itself. You get taxed.
It's not easy. There are ways to do it. There are growth shares rather than options. So there are ways to do it where the the new employee doesn't get taxed that badly. So if there are any developers out there that are looking to be part of the next big thing, then we're very interested to speak with them.
I don't, unfortunately, I wouldn't even know how to switch on the computer.
Oh, we can teach you. We can teach you.
And the next thing you need, cash.
Indeed. Every startup needs cash. So we're currently going through a fundraising round. A relatively modest one compared to last week's guests on the show who raised 18 million.
Were they the two best guys? Actually, there's the place to find your developers. They told you that they meet, because they're the Young Scientists of the Years, meet every year during the Young Scientist, and they go down to Crow's Pub. Go down to Crow's Pub, put a few quid behind the bar.
Indeed.
And the lads will be saying, who put that there?
Absolutely.
And you'll be able to say it's up to Hull.
That'll be part of our next recruitment strategy, absolutely. Give them drink. Where were we there?
You were talking about funding. You're not going to raise 18 million. How much are you going to raise?
So we're raising, it's below 1 million, but we just really want to do it lean, and we want to use it to get to our next revenue target, which is 1 million. That's where we're going to get to next year. So we already have half of the round committed, and we're just signing it now, literally this week.
Good, congratulations.
The first investor, it's a family office in Ireland, and we're now speaking with other investors who want to fill out the round.
Would make sense for a Kerry or a Glam. Sorry, Kerry's no longer really in Milshire. They're not.
Oh, they are. Kerry Ireland are. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Glambia.
Yeah.
Some of those.
Tirlawn is the new name for Glambia. Yeah.
Would any of those not chuck a few quid at you? Would make sense, wouldn't it?
Well, we're trying to get them to become customers first, and then maybe
are not customers, are they not?
Not quite. Yeah, we do.
Come on.
We do have one of the top four on our books.
But you need the other three
already. But we need the other three to follow. But I'm pretty hopeful that they will.
And Michal Whelan is my man down in Nova UCD. What are you doing, or why did you choose to go on to that accelerator at Nova UCD?
Indeed. So it's the second year of Nova's AgTech Accelerator, which is for startups, some of them very early stage at concept, some of them in revenue like we are. And they widen our network and bring us to sort of AgTech people that we wouldn't get contact with before, especially me coming from a technology background. And the first day was in UCD Lions Farm, which is a 200 dairy cow herd farm. And while we're having a class, right beside us, we could look into a robotic milking machine where cows are actually just walking in and robotically being put on a stand and milked and walking out. So amazing technology that you can see. And if anyone, hopefully people still don't think this, but if anyone thinks that the farming industry, agriculture is not advanced technologically, then they should really go and have a look at that.
Actually, have you made contact with Dr. Edmund Harty?
I have indeed.
Because he is an incredible guy. Actually, I will try again to get him onto the podcast. He is just, he's a superb business person. And he now has kind of retired.
He's moved on from the original.
Yeah, company. So he might be available to you.
Yeah,
he could do a bit of coding for you.
Yeah, he can. He told me he can, so he can do pretty much everything. And so absolutely, Edmund is a great guy.
I think he told me that I don't like thinking about it even, is that the little goats that you can milk a goat in 2 seconds or 4 seconds or something using his machinery. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I knew you could milk goats, but I didn't know you could do it in 2 or 4 seconds.
Something like that. I'm still going,
I hope the goats are all right after that.
I'd say they probably are so quick they don't know. So what can Team GBS do for you? We will shame the top 3 milk producers in the country that are not using you. We'll shame them into using you.
Absolutely.
And then what about the States? We are well connected in the States. What can we do for you in the States?
I heard that on last week's show as well. I mean, we are we're in contracting to bring on our first US customer, and they're a global dairy brand. So nothing is definite until it's over the line. But
is that they're based somewhere in the centre, are they?
Yeah, they're actually in the East Coast. And the East Coast is where you have a larger number of smaller farms, whereas on the West Coast, they are just huge farms with 20 or 30,000 cows. But yeah, so we're looking to sign our first agreement there, and obviously then we need to build our presence over in the US. So that's really part of our focus, and it's great to hear that you guys have strong links there.
And we also have a guy from Meath, from Oldcastle, County Meath, called Tony Sheridan. And Tony, because you're based in Meath yourself now, right. And Tony will look after you because he's an incredibly well-connected guy in Connecticut, and they will look after you. He's nuts to help. and he's nuts to help other Irish companies. If you're listening, he's going to have opening just after Christmas an exhibition centre specifically built to exhibit Irish products in Connecticut for the US market.
Wow.
Kind of for free. It's not quite free, but it's almost free. We like that.
That sounds interesting.
Do you know the final question that we ask on this podcast? He's looking at me and he doesn't know.
I do.
Oh, thank God.
I tried to
you could have psyched me out there. Because I'm on a roll. I've done 2 interviews and 2 people knew what my final question was. Normally people say, what? Who would Gary Gallagher hire in a heartbeat?
Yeah, well, I don't... there's loads of options in Ireland. We definitely don't have to look beyond that. But for me, it's Bobby Healy from Mana Aerospace. So I'm sure you know what he's doing.
I know Bobby. Yeah.
But he's taking on a huge task in bringing drone deliveries to Ireland or to the world. I mean, it's just impressive to see how ambitious he is in doing something that probably for most of it sounds nice, but sounds a little bit far off, but actually he's doing it, and he's active now in Oranmore. He's active in Balbriggan, and obviously he started maybe 2 or 3 companies before that. So certainly an impressive guy from an entrepreneurial perspective, but also he does speak up for early stage startups and the gaps that exist in Ireland around pre-seed funding and so on. He's very vocal around that. So. It would be great to get Bobby on board, and probably we could optimise his drone routes as well. So it'd probably be a win-win.
Well, a couple of things there. Did you see? I mean, drones have become so mainstream now. Unfortunately, maybe, but it is a byproduct of the Ukraine war. I mean, that's a war being run out of the air with spotters from drones, and then the guns firing into those spots. So that's one thing. The second thing with Bobby is he is a superb supporter of ours, and he does retweet and he shares, and he's a good guy all around. So yeah, and he's also an investor in Mana is Jamie Heaslip, who started this podcast with me.
Oh, okay.
There you go. We're well connected with him. So that is fantastic. Will you please come back to us when you fund and when you're going to go into the States in a big way and or anywhere else? Where's the biggest other big market that you might like to go to?
So the United States and Europe are big. China is a tricky one, but it's going to be big for us.
In Europe, where would you go?
The biggest are France, Germany, Netherlands.
Is there a huge dairy in Poland as well?
Yeah, Poland. We're already speaking with a customer in Poland. I mean, we're speaking with companies in Chile, in Australia, in Slovakia. There's no country really where this isn't applicable. So it's just about us scaling, quickly enough to be able to handle it.
The Irish honorary consul in Paraguay is Conor McEnroy. Conor was on episode 15. If you are heading to Paraguay, because he told me this last Saturday, he wants to hear from companies. He will make the introductions. And he is a banker down there, a very successful banker.
Okay.
So there you go.
Wow.
How much more can we do for you? If you
Plenty
want
more. I'll keep asking anyway.
Please do. That is Gary Gallagher. He is co-founder with the company of Optahol. Gary, thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thanks, Connell. Pleasure.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of Team GBS.
Viscosity. When you shave, you want the highest viscosity because it helps the blade run smoother. De facto, the world's best shaving oil, has incredible viscosity. That's why De facto leaves your face, underarms, or legs nick-free. Higher viscosity makes blades last longer. De facto is the best for your skin and your pocket. DeFactoShave.com.
All That Great Business Show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
Things may be about to get tough, so you're going to need all the money-saving advice that you can get. And that's where Team GBS comes into its own. As always, we're here for you. And so is Ruth Bailey. As well as being our next guest, Ruth is co-founder and CEO of Vigo Health, a digital health and wellbeing startup focused on providing a new type of cover to under 35-year-olds, but goes a bit beyond that. She has a bit of form in the health insurance business, having been a founding member of Glow Health, head of marketing at Vigo Health, and an early founder of Vivas Health. Ruth Bailey, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
You've got a bit of form, haven't you?
Well, I do like health insurance.
That's normally what you say to...
Many don't,
That's
but
normally
I do.
what you say to a criminal. You've got a bit of form.
Yeah, it's an interesting market for health insurance anoraks, but it's. I think I've got more form in trying to do things a little bit differently and startups and trying to kind of, I suppose, change things up a little bit within health insurance.
But about 5 minutes ago, when we had our pre-chat, you just told me that you're not actually just looking at under 35-year-olds. You're doing the entire market.
Yeah, I mean the original idea for Vigo Health started. The germ of the idea started for younger adults, and typically we say under 35s. And the reason why it started there was because they're the people who are least likely to pay for private health insurance. And as you've just read out, my background and the background of my co-founder Stephen, we're health insurance veterans, so we know the health insurance market quite well. And we had noticed a severe underrepresentation of younger adults with health insurance. So our hypothesis was that this group of people do actually want some sort of a health solution, but just what was there at the moment wasn't meeting their needs. So that's where we got the idea to launch the product that we've launched, or the solution we've got with Vigo Health. But actually, when we brought it to the market, it ended up going much wider than that. So it was designed for 10,000
different health plans, aren't there?
Well, 350, but yeah, close. Yeah.
350.
350.
And you've made it 351, have you?
Well, technically speaking, we've got three products, three solutions.
353.
Two of our products aren't actually health insurance. So two of our products are complete digital health products. So we would kind of position them more as digital health subscription products, because that's what they are. So health insurance is a financial services product. Our two digital products are not financial services because there's no insurance element. There's no exchange. We provide digital health services in a product.
Which is, what's that in English for me?
So our Vigo 2 plan, for example, has 6 services. You can get unlimited access to an online GP immediately. So no appointments, no waiting. You can connect with a GP immediately.
On a Zoom.
On a Zoom or on your phone, yeah, sure. Yeah. You get unlimited access to mental health, messaging with mental health professionals. You can message a doctor if you don't want to have a full video call with the doctor. You can have unlimited chats with our Vigo nurses. You can have online physio, and you can go through our online prescription.
Online physio?
Yes, it works.
That is not a thing.
It is a thing, and it works. And I'll tell you where a lot of people tend to use
press here, press there.
Is obviously it has to be video. But you can go through a lot of triage with a physio and a video, and they can, ask you to do various different exercises to see where your problems are. And for the more kind of minor or routine issues, a lot of them actually can be resolved by the physio directing the user or the patient to doing exercises through YouTube.
Take 2 Panadol.
Or do your exercises. The physios will kill me. But it is really good for triage.
You better say chartered physiotherapists. Because they are very keen on that.
Absolutely. They are all completely qualified chartered physiotherapists. But it's very popular. And back to why did we do it, and what have we learned emerging out of kind of as we go through these digital products is cost and accessibility. Right? So cost is a big barrier to accessing healthcare.
So if you compare your Vigo 2, is that what you just said, with another product, I don't know whose product, where are you on the pay scale, on the cost scale?
Sure. It's a great question because we don't really have comparable products. But so our Vigo 2 product that I've just explained is €15 a month. So you pay a subscription of €15 a month and you get unlimited access to all those services. So we are adjacent to, we're kind of in the middle between pure play digital health or online doctors, of which there are many, but they don't do subscriptions and they don't have all these other ancillary services like mental health and physio and so on. And then a health insurance providers who would have, their core product, which is health insurance, and then some of these digital services on top of it. So there is no actual other competitor that has a pure play digital health subscription service with all of these services bundled in.
For 15 quid.
15 quid a month.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Price-wise. Now, the hard questions about the doctor. I need a doctor at midnight.
Yeah. 24/7.
Really?
Yeah. And 24/7 within minutes.
Ireland-based?
All Irish-based GPs. All Irish-based GPs, doctors, physios and nurses. All of them are Irish-based.
So where are you making your money? Or how are you making your money?
So there's a couple of things. First of all, we partner with an amazing partner called Abbey Global Health. And Abbey they provide and develop the technology, and they manage all of the clinicians, the doctors, the doctors and the mental health professionals for us. So Abbey are in 35 countries. So they have a model where the platform and the technology has already been built. And they then just recruit healthcare professionals in the local market that they're in. So we work with Abbey and we pay Abbey for a certain amount.
So you've taken a white label off them, really, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, the nurse service is our own. So they're Vigo staff nurses. And then the online physio.
Where are you finding nurses in this market? I thought they were like hen's teeth.
Well, you see, the problem is that they're like hen's teeth for nurses who want to work in hospitals. And I'm, certainly don't want to get into the state of the health system today, but there's a lot of nurses and doctors and other healthcare professionals who are so burnt out with the health system. And, are looking for, I suppose, an alternative way of making a living. And, we're seeing a lot of those kind of qualified healthcare professionals go into industry, go into pharmaceutical companies, go into insurance companies. So did we have any problems recruiting nurses? No, not at all. And that kind of speaks its own story.
Okay, so that is Vigo Tube, as you said. I think this sounds like a big ad for you. You know that. What's the other products? I think other products. Yeah.
So we have 3 products. So our first product, our Vigo One product, is our lowest cost offering, €10 a month, and that is a online prescription service. So if you are on a routine repeat prescription, so let's say you have asthma and you have an inhaler and you need to get that inhaler prescription filled every 3 months or 6 months or whatever, rather than going to your own GP and having to wait and make an appointment and all of that, we can do that for you just through an online prescription service. So that's our just Vigo One product. It's online prescription only. Our Vigo 2, I've just described, is all of the kind of suite of digital products. And then our Vigo 3, which is kind of the step up again, is all of the digital services that I've just explained from Vigo 2. But we also cover the cost of your face-to-face outpatient costs. So we're all about everyday healthcare. So if you need to go and get a set of bloods done, if you need to get a scan done, if you need to see an outpatient consultant, if you want to see a face-to-face GP, if you want to go to a dentist, we'll give you a cash contribution towards the cost of those.
A cash contribution?
Yes.
How much?
So depends on the service. So for GP, we cover in full, up to a maximum of €200 a year.
That's only about two visits.
Well,
nowadays.
It depends on your GP. But now, bearing in mind, you also have unlimited virtual GP. So it's only in the event you need to go and see a face-to-face GP.
Tell me that I can go and see a physio and that I'll get a rub.
Yes, you can get to see a face-to-face physio 10 times. So the idea of the Vigo 3 product, it's for people who, I suppose, want to access face-to-face healthcare professionals, which of course sometimes, is necessary and is needed, so that we can facilitate that through our Vigo 3 plan as well.
So now you would be a kind of person, I'm guessing, that loves analysis and that you've looked at all the figures. What are people using, not using? Where are people veering towards? What are they... are people, as I mentioned earlier, going to see a doctor at midnight?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So there's going back again to our Vigo 2, or our main digital services. It's how they're using them, which is really interesting. So for example, we've got one of our services, a message a doctor service. So you can send a WhatsApp or an online chat to a doctor 24 hours a day, and you'll get a response back within minutes. That is used really heavily, but we find that's used for more sensitive medical conditions. So for something that somebody might feel a little bit uncomfortable talking to either a face-to-face GP about, or even on a video call, that they'll sometimes do that kind of messaging service.
And is that on a WhatsApp or something like that?
WhatsApp or online chat through our our portal.
And saying I have a scratch somewhere that I don't want to talk about or something like that.
Or I've come come in late at night after a night out and a couple of Vinos, and I've, fallen over a step, or I've fallen over the cat, and I think of her, so whatever it is, that you can get credible medical advice anytime, night or day. And what we kind of, I suppose, want to try and get people to stop doing is going to Dr. Google. Because the alternative is I'll just open my phone there and I'll Google my symptoms and I come up with all sorts of things. And we're saying you don't have to do that, because you can access credible medical advice 24 hours a day within minutes.
Okay. I assume, and I may be completely wrong about this, that this is building a brand and you're going to flog it because you've done that before.
Well, we launched in May 2021, and all I can say to you is right now we're completely committed to Vigo Health and building Vigo Health. What happens in the future, sure, who knows? But
it sounds like you're going to flip it, yeah, because you've done it before. This is not your first venture.
No, it's not. It's my fourth startup, my third in the health space.
Okay, and you have an interesting investor.
Yes.
Irish Life.
Irish Life, yeah, they're super, yeah.
Yeah, but they're an investor. So really, are you not just test marketing for them?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't actually put it that way, or I wouldn't kind of talk about it in that regard.
I would. I'm the rude boy here.
What we're doing is we, when I say we, myself and Stephen, my co-founder, we had this idea that, there is a better way of trying to access this market who aren't buying health insurance.
Now, you and Stephen, are you sitting down having a cup of coffee or something and you say, here's an idea.
Let's do this. Yeah.
Okay, because you had done other ones.
Correct.
And you saw this gap, did you?
Yeah, it's a gap in the market.
And then when you saw that, did you just go off and did you do a little bit of Googling yourselves to see about actual numbers, who's using what?
Well, we did better than Google because Stephen is an actuary. So he loves data and numbers. So we had...
I used to work with that.
No, Stephen's one of the fun actuaries.
Healy, I'm very sorry.
Stephen's one of the fun actuaries, I promise. But we had a lot of CSO data, HIA, which is the Health Insurance Authority data. So we had credible data, which told us here is a group of the Irish population who are not buying health insurance, but are what we would call would-be health insurance buyers. So we knew that they were they were really, really underrepresented. So we did start off with the data and the numbers and how many potential prospects. And I think the one thing that we weren't expecting as much was we had this kind of segment in mind, this younger adult segment, largely because they're the ones who are less likely to buy health insurance. But since we've launched, and over the last kind of 18 months, we're getting interest from all age groups and all segments. And we're also getting an awful lot of interest from employers. And I think that's probably from, coming through the pandemic. Stephen and I started this conversation before COVID was ever around. Well, only about 6 months before COVID was around. But I think COVID just shifted everybody's mindset. One, with regards to, digital health and telemedicine. It is like the experts say, it has brought on the acceptance of telemedicine by like 25 years or something like that. So that has been a huge thing. But the second part of it is that employers, I think, are much more aware of their obligation to look after the health and well-being of staff. So we hadn't set out to do that, but that has been, I think, a function of how the world has evolved. And that's been very interesting.
I have read that there are others in this marketplace, and I assume that those people who are well versed in all matters health insurance are just going to squash it.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, the way we look at it is, first of all competition is good because, it brings the market.
Says that, but you
of
hate
course,
them, really.
They say that. But we're trying to create a category. And as I said to you, we've got the first ever digital health subscription, right? So the first thing is we've got a bit of education to do to explain what it is, how it works, this is how it works, and da-da-da-da-da. So if there's more competition in that space, that's good for the industry. When we can get people understanding it.
Undercut you just to push you out of the market.
Well, I would maybe suggest that, we would be a little bit ahead because we've got pipelines of innovations and the new stuff. So we're out in the market.
No, there's nobody listening. You tell me what's coming up.
All I can tell you is Abby, who we work with, are a super partner and they've a really, really interesting technology stack and we're working with them.
And you said they are in 35 countries, I think.
They are.
And can you reverse engineer that? Can you bring Vigo into other markets?
We can and we could, and it could be something that we do in the future. For now, we're solely focused on Ireland because we want to kind of, I suppose, establish a foothold in Ireland. But the future for the digital health products, not for the Vigo 3, the more cash element, we can't bring that one because that's a financial services product. So there'll be regulatory barriers. But the digital products, absolutely.
But even on regulatory barriers, I mean, you're within the EU.
We would have to be individually regulated by each local central bank. Yeah. Which is a whole world of pain, let me tell you.
Okay, well, we'll move away from that. But you are, as I mentioned, invested in by Irish Life.
Yes.
Why are they investing in you?
Well, I think to begin with, Irish Life recognised that this age group and this segment may not be as I suppose, attracted to a brand like Irish Life. Irish Life is a super brand and they're very well trusted and credible and all the rest of it. But they're probably associated like the big banks and the big financial services institutions. You know, really credible, really trustworthy, but maybe something my parents, you know, would kind of deal with. So for that younger adult audience, I think Irish Life recognised that a new brand mightn't be a bad idea. And then coupled with the fact that we were trying to get a new product.
You are stalking the market for them.
Well, we're an independent business. They happen to own, a stake or a share of the business.
And is it a big chunk or a small chunk?
It's a chunk.
You're good. You've been in interviews before.
I have. It's a chunk. Look, no, listen, you know, very genuinely, Irish Life are, you know, they're a great partner. We were very lucky. They knew Stephen and I. Irish Life were also the investor in Vigo Health. So they knew us from before. And so when we went to them with our idea, they said, okay, let's talk. And you know, it went from there. So we were actually very lucky that we didn't have to go down around the houses to the VC, knocking on doors, looking to raise money that a lot of new kind of startups do have to do. And it can be a slog, and I know it can be a slog. So we were very lucky that Irish Life gave us a fair hearing. So, you know, they're good.
Can you cross the border? Because you can't really, because
Again, with digital health, yes. With our Vigo 3,
so have you gone into Northern Ireland?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet.
So where for example is quite interesting for us is employers who might have a manufacturing plant in the south and one in the north and might have, you know, various different offices. Our digital products will be able to, you know, serve all of their employees. Whereas if it was a health insurance or a financial services product, they wouldn't be able to cross over like that.
Okay. You know what the final question is, do you?
Go on.
Who would you hire in a heartbeat?
Oh, very good. Yes.
Do you know that? That's 100% for me this week because everybody so far has actually remembered.
Yes. And I have got it. So as a startup digital health business, I'm really attracted to what I would call a hustler. Somebody who can hustle because you know, and I know that getting a startup off the ground is hard.
You're not bad yourself.
I've done a bit of hustling.
I'm looking you straight in the eye and I've heard about 15 to 20 minutes of a sales pitch.
Yeah, but that's what you have to do when you're getting a startup off the ground.
That's called a hustle.
That's called a hustle. So I need a hustler. So
you do not.
The hustler that I would hire in a heartbeat is my brother, David Bailey, who set up a bus company during COVID, and he now has 28 buses on the road.
Which one?
VIP buses.
Okay. And does he want to come in and join us here?
Do you know what? He'd be a little bit shyer than I would, but he might.
We bring the best out. How come you're not shy and he is?
Well, maybe shy is the wrong word. He would be less inclined to come in to talk about this. He'd be more interested in being out hustling, trying to buy another bus or trying to get another deal.
Well, sure, we can do it on the airwaves. He can buy a bus.
Yes. Yeah. Do you know what? He probably would as well. Very genuinely, he's a super guy. He was in the car business. COVID shut it down 2 years ago. He had no business, no nothing. And today he's got 28 buses. He's got school runs with, Department of Education. He does coach tours all over Dublin. Dublin and kind of surround, so Kildare, Wicklow and all. And he does coach tours. He does corporate travel. And in 2 years, he has hustled his way back. So I think good for him as well.
We respect him.
Yeah. He'd never work for me though. We'd kill each other.
Yeah, okay. David, you please come in. And he's also hired. Well, he's kind of hired, but you're not hiring. you would, as you say, murder.
Yeah,
Bad-
well,
bad
I
idea.
think, siblings,
I do
working
indeed.
together mightn't be the best idea. But he's
The
great.
very best of luck to you and to Stephen with Vigo. That's Ruth Bailey. And thank you very much for joining us on That Great Business Show, because that is the end of That Great Business Show, episode 111. Would you believe that?
Fantastic.
111. And do make sure to press the share button. Ruth, do you press the share button? We don't like likes. We like
Understood. Share. Got it.
Because it goes
Absolutely.
much wider. And you can also advertise with us. Give me a shout on LinkedIn if you would like to know more about that. We record here at the Dublin South Podcast Studios. Today's man pushing his buttons again is sound engineer Lee Brennan. And Lee and I are off to go down to... What's that place again? We're 30 quid's worth of booze we're going to get for nothing, basically. And later on, Neil Horner will add that extra sparkle that makes us the best-sounding podcast in the digital universe. If you are interested in hiring an apprentice, becoming an apprentice, or getting an apprenticeship course up and running, do listen back to the Queen of Apprentices, she be Mary Liz Trant, Director of the National Apprenticeship Office. She was on episode 110, that's last week's one. Apprentices are essential for the future of businesses. And if you'd like to record a podcast, contact Peter Rice here at the Dublin South Podcast Studios. And I hope we will be announcing the launch of more podcasts like The Fifth Court that we're involved with in the near future. If you would like your own podcast, have a chat with us. We bring it to another level. All of the great business insights and tips are brought to you, as always, thanks to our sponsor, De Facto Shaving Oil, the world's best all-natural shaving oil. If they back us, please back them. DeFactoShave.com will get them. And also, do not forget to buy Business Plus magazine, where we now have that regular column all about the podcast. So from me, Connelly, Mila Buechas for listening, agus Slán Tamil.